And now we shall move on to the next segment of a bulletin, On the Table. Over to you, Mohana.
Good evening and welcome back to the program. Now, Malaysia's intention to join Brics, which is Brazil, Russia, India, China and South Africa grouping, with the recent inclusions of Iran, Ethiopia, Saudi Arabia and the UAE, signals another effort by the ruling coalition to broaden our perspectives in global relations and international trade. We'd like to go further into this subject matter on the economic and financial impact to the nation. With us in the studio today is Dr. Muhammad Nizam Abdul Rashid, Chief Economist at Bank Muamalat Malaysia, Berhad. Doctor, welcome back to the program.
Thank you for having me.
Now, let's begin with the fact that we already have good economic and trade relations with the countries I just mentioned. Now, why do we need to sign up to another intergovernmental organization such as this, and what are the implications to our economy?
Right. Obviously, this is a form of strategic move by the government. We can see that the Brics economies have risen to its prominence. We can see in terms of their share to the global GDP has risen from merely 16% way back in 1990s and currently hovering around 21%. That actually surpassed the size of G7 countries' contribution to the world economy. And that goes to show how influential this economic bloc, so to speak. But having said that, beyond the size of the economy, I think there are other pressing matters that also may be part of the considerations. For instance, if you look at the over-reliance on US dollar in terms of trade settlements and investments, it become sort of a problematic situation for all countries in the world, especially when we saw a greater degree of fluctuations and volatility. That caused a business in terms of how they put up their resources to mitigate the impact. So I think it's a strategic move, and hopefully it will bring greater economic prosperity going forward. Yeah.
Oh, you mentioned trade settlements. We've read that analysts have said that by joining Brics, Malaysia and other countries which have shown interest, like Thailand and Indonesia, can avoid relying on the US dollar and balancing a currency trade-off in a US-dominated world economy. So does this mean that there is greater economic sovereignty for Malaysia by joining Brics?
Yeah, to some degree, I would like to think so, because at the moment, global economy are so fixated with the movements of the currencies in the US, and more so how monetary policy being prescribed in the US, where essentially that type of policy are meant for US economy, the US domestic economy, but that domestic affairs has spillover effects to other areas such as the currency markets. So I think we want to address that. Of course, there are historical context to it, like the fall of Bretton Woods in the 70s, and that resulted in the greater usage of US dollar, and there was a Plaza Accords in 1985. All these events leads to the huge application of US dollar by default. So this creates problems, then creates frictions to a large degree. So naturally, countries will be looking for alternatives, looking for ways and means to address those things. So I think at the moment, the solutions has been quite piecemeal. I think we saw measures like local currency settlement framework, LCSF, between us and with China, with Thailand, with Indonesia, and I must say that this LCSF has been, quite effective, but it's still very piecemeal. So I think by having Brics and perhaps a larger member of Brics members going forward, so I think the composition of trade settlement in terms of currencies that will be more diverse.
And speaking about currency, Doctor, how would the ringgit then perform against nations which are embedded in Brics?
Yeah, I think the main question now is what sort of currency that we want to use. I think Brazil's president did mention about using Brics currencies as their alternative, obviously. But I think that's not a really...
Does that mean all the countries involved in Brics will use those currencies as a basket?
Yeah, it seems that the most palatable solutions, but we have seen examples in the Europe, and the usage of euro currencies within the European Monetary Union bloc, you know, but it creates some frictions, obviously, among the member countries, because they need to make sure that their monetary policy are unified. You see, that's why they have that European Central Bank, and everything. When everything is unified, but in reality, each member countries has a different set of economic dynamics, and yet they have to prescribe a similar kind of policies. So that creates friction. So I think that's the experience that we saw in the euro currencies. So I don't know whether Brics should import that kind of methodology, but obviously the conversation is towards having a better currency settlement part of the arrangement, I would say.
I think it is quite challenging because I think Brics operates on a consensus basis at the moment. So I think finding that balance is a big challenge. Now, Doctor, let's move a little bit into the geopolitics. Just very lightly, how will the US-China trade war or even Russia's war in Ukraine affect Malaysia when we join Brics?
Yeah, this is a very tricky question, obviously. I mean, to strike a delicate balance, obviously, is a challenging task, obviously, because you need to weigh the interest between those superpowers. And certainly we wouldn't to be caught into, something like, economic sanctions, tariff measures being imposed to us. So those are the risks associated with this.
And that possibility is real, right?
Right. I think it's something that should be part of that's what I've been saying. Perhaps the government should do the cost and benefit analysis to see what will be the ultimate results.
Yes, I'd like to ask about that actually. What do you mean about the cost and benefit analysis? Because I think you've mentioned we've read certain reports about your comments on this, and you've mentioned that the conditions are quite fluid right now, especially in relating to geopolitical situations. So what do you mean by that?
Sure. I think CB is quite standard. I mean, whenever you appraise any investment proposals, any decisions to be made, and you would look at all aspects before you decide on things, and which is part of your due diligence, so to speak. So I think
that would have been done already, though, right?
Yeah, I suppose so. I'm not privy to that, but I suppose the CBA has been done, and perhaps that's why we noticed that kind of remarks being coming out from the government. But yeah, I think the CBA itself perhaps can enlighten us about the risks. We talk about possible retaliations, perhaps by the G7 countries. These are the possible risks that need to be taken into consideration.
Do you think then that it could prolong our application, or is this something that's going to happen very fast? How does this work? Join a grouping such as this?
I suppose there's no hard timeline on this. I think we saw a number of countries like UAE has joined Brics early of this year. So perhaps there will be more going forward. But so far, I think there's no mention about specific timeline. It's just an expression of interest to join. So I think that would be the news flow that we'll be hearing after this.
Okay, we'll keep a close eye on that. Now, before I let you go, Doctor, this is a question that's not related to Brics, but it's more of a general question. So with the advanced economies, such as the US, UK, France, and they're all having elections this year, economic policies might change, correct? How would that affect us? Now, whether we join Brics or not, how does that affect us?
Sure. Geopolitics is very fluid, and you can see how those situations or factors affecting us in terms of the global trades, investments. And I think the words populism become so synonyms, become so familiar.
Yeah.
So I think the upcoming elections in France, it seems that the populist party might have some better chance to win, perhaps, but. Again, this geopolitics, the direction of it, it has a direct implication how the global stage is being shaped policy-wise.
Are there any indicators right now? Do you see anything?
I'm not too sure. I'm not really
too early.
It's too early to tell, but you can tell from how the financial markets has been behaving. If you look at the currency markets, ever since that the France actually announced their snap elections, euro currencies start to depreciate because of the uncertainties over the potential outcomes in the snap election itself.
Yeah.
So the indicators, I would say, it can be reflected through currency markets and the equities markets, because that reflect how the anticipation by the investors about the possible policy being implemented going forward.
All right.
Yeah.
Dr. Afsan Nizam, thank you so much for your
Most
insights
welcome.
today. We really appreciate it.
Sure.
Thank you.
Welcome.
And that's all the time we've got for tonight's On the Table. We've been speaking to Dr. Muhammad Afsan Nizam, Chief Economist at Bank Muamalat Malaysia. It's now back to you.
And that will conclude this edition of Malaysia Tonight. Now, together with Mohana Priya, I'm Renee Fong. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. Thanks for watching and have a pleasant evening.